Hello everyone, I'm H2Acon from Online Knights, and this is Mass Effect Factions, the series where we break down the various races and factions in the Mass Effect trilogy, obviously with some spoilers. We split each video into 4 sections: history, anatomy, military, and culture. You're watching episode 14, and today we'll be covering the Free People of Omega. Firstly, history, an account of how Omega came to be. Long ago, the Protheans discovered a large asteroid deep in the Terminus systems which contained huge amounts of element zero. The Protheans set up mines on the asteroid to harvest this important resource. However, these were abandoned not long afterwards due to its thick crust thwarting their attempts to get at its core. The asteroid remained abandoned until many tens of thousands of years later, when it collided with another asteroid and split open, exposing its element zero deposits for easy mining. When this was discovered, a rush of companies swarmed the asteroid, all seeking to exploit its vast mineral wealth. Located far outside of Council space, there was no government to protect these miners from the wave of criminal gangs who followed them to the asteroid and hijacked their mines. Despite being rivals, the gangs were forced to cooperate as space restrictions forced their expanding mining facilities into contact with one another. Eventually, the buildings all joined together to form a giant space station, which became known as Omega. A city run by criminals, Omega quickly became a safe haven for thieves and outlaws who flocked to the station from far and wide to turn it into the galaxy's hub of weapons smuggling, drug trafficking, and other criminal activity. Omega's vast reserves of Element Zero were mined by an army of slaves, and then exported around the galaxy, generating huge profits for the gangs. The largest of these gangs was led by an anonymous Turian who was eventually able to outmaneuver his rivals and gain effective control of the station. This didn't last long though, as before long the Turian was overthrown by a Krogan, who defeated him in single combat, and even ate the dead Turian's heart out of spite. That Krogan took over as the ruler of Omega for over 100 years, until he too was overthrown by an Asari named Arya Taloic in 1980 CE. Arya had been one of his lieutenants, and gained the loyalty of his troops by seducing them with her Asari followers. With the Krogan's forces deserting him, Arya challenged him to single combat and emerged victorious, though she chose to spare his life. Now known as Patriarch, an insulting nickname in Asari culture, the Krogan is now a servant of Arya, kept as a trophy to demonstrate her supremacy. By the time of the games, Arya is still in power, ruling the space station as the Pirate Queen of Omega. Secondly, anatomy, a description of Omega's inhabitants. Omega is home to one of the most diverse mixes of species anywhere in the galaxy, and its residents include many species which are unwelcome on the Citadel. The total population of the station is just about 7.8 million, with humans making up roughly 1 in 9 of that number, despite being relatively new to the galactic stage. In addition to humans, Batarians and Turians are some of the most prevalent species on Omega, who both enjoy the freedom of lawlessness away from their controlling governments. Omega is also home to thousands of Krogan looking to make their fortunes in piracy, as well as many young Asari seeking adventure before they reach their more mature life stages. Many Solarians can also be found on Omega, along with large numbers of Vorcha, and even Elcor, Volus, and the occasional Quarian on their pilgrimage. With such a diverse mix of races and such complicated histories between them, racial tensions flare up frequently, and some of Omega's residents prefer to keep the districts of their own species. That said, with Arya's multi-species syndicate to enforce the peace, Omega has yet to tear itself apart. Thirdly, military, an assessment of Omega's strength. In addition to the large force under Arya's command, Omega is also defended by several crooked mercenary organizations. These all take advantage of Omega's lawlessness to use the station as their criminal headquarters, and so stand to lose if the station were to be attacked. Omega is equipped with defensive kinetic barriers, as well as several anti-ship cannons to prevent unwelcome vessels boarding the station, and once docked, any invaders would have to fight against Arya, the mercenary groups, and even the heavily armed civilian population. With such daunting defences, no pirate group would dream of attempting to raid Omega, and the station is quite secure from takeover by any Citadel race. Omega's infighting inhabitants pose little threat to Council space, and so clearing out the criminal nest is considered far more trouble than it would be worth. Finally, culture, a summary of Omega's society. Omega's lawless inhabitants are violent and individualistic, giving the station a well-deserved reputation for brutality. With no law enforcement to maintain order, almost all of Omega's residents own weapons to defend themselves, and daily casualties are just another part of life. Arya's syndicate controls the mines, and the district which houses the station's main reactor, which powers all life support on the station, the ability to shut off vital systems to dozens of districts, cementing her authority on Omega. But although in control of the station, Arya doesn't have the manpower to police every dock, warehouse and residential district, and so other gangs still operate on parts of the station. As long as they don't interfere with Aria's business, they're allowed to do as they please, and so Omega's streets are rife with drugs and protection rackets. None of these groups dare to seriously challenge Aria's territory, however turf wars between the gangs are frequent, resulting in hundreds of deaths in some of the worst instances. Despite all this, Omega is seen as a land of opportunity by criminals all over the galaxy, and in spite of its death rate, the population is still growing fast. So, that's Omega. Please bear in mind that this isn't a definitive summary, but we hope that you've learned something new regardless. Please like the video if you've enjoyed, comment any suggestions, and subscribe to see more. I've been H2Acon from Online Nights, and I'll see you next time.